You talk too much. And they are using every single word against you. Right now. Think about the last time you tried to explain yourself. You laid out your reasoning. You defended your position. You over-justified every single choice you made. And what happened? They didn't respect you more. They respected you less. Because here is the brutal truth that nobody in your life will say to your face. Every word you volunteer is a weapon you hand to your enemy. Every explanation is a confession. Every justification is a display of weakness. Every time you rush to fill silence, you are telling the room exactly how insecure you are. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He watched princes crumble. He watched men of genuine talent get devoured by lesser, craftier opponents. And he documented exactly why. It wasn't lack of intelligence. It wasn't lack of strength. It was the compulsive, self-destructive need to be understood. You were conditioned since childhood to communicate, to share, to explain, to be transparent. And that conditioning? In the real world, in the boardroom, in the relationship, in the social hierarchy, it turns you into prey. You are not losing because you are weak. You are losing because you refuse to stop talking. Your silence is not emptiness. Your silence is not avoidance. Your silence is a weapon, and you have been leaving it in the drawer while you fight every battle with your bare hands. This video will teach you how to pick it up. Here is what you are going to learn today. Principle 1. Why your words are bleeding you out in every social encounter. Principle 2. How silence creates a power vacuum that forces others to expose themselves. Principle 3. The predator's pause, and why lions never explain themselves. Principle 4. Information asymmetry and how to weaponize what you don't say. Principle 5. Deploying strategic silence against manipulation in real time. Principle 6. Shadow integration, embracing the uncomfortable stillness inside you. Principle 7. Building a reputation so fearsome that your silence alone ends conversations. Stay until the end. Because the final principle is the one that will fundamentally change how every person in your life sees you, permanently. Let's begin. Here is something nobody tells you. Every conversation is a transaction. And right now, you are the one paying full price while everyone else shops for free. Ask yourself this question. When is the last time you held back and let them speak first? When is the last time you sat in discomfort instead of rushing to fill it? If you cannot remember, that is your answer. You have a talking compulsion. You do not even notice it. Feels like honesty. It feels like connection. It feels like being real. But what it actually is, clinically, psychologically, strategically, is a nervous system response to social anxiety. You talk because silence terrifies you. You explain because uncertainty is unbearable. You overshare because you are running a covert contract, an unspoken deal you made with the world where if I show them everything they will not hurt me. That contract is a lie. And the hyenas around you know it. Watch how this works in real life. You walk into a negotiation. You feel the tension. And before the other person even speaks, you have already started justifying your position. You have already volunteered your price range. You have already shown your deadline. You have already told them exactly how much you need this deal. You handed them every piece of ammunition they needed. For free. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But here is the layer most people miss. Fear requires mystery. Fear requires unknowing. You cannot fear what you fully understand. The moment you explain yourself completely, you become manageable, predictable, safe to dismiss. You became an explained creature. And explained creatures do not command rooms. Now, here is the tactical shift. Stop treating silence like a failure of communication. Start treating it like the most advanced communication tool you own. When someone asks you a probing question, pause before you answer. Count to 3. Watch what happens. Their discomfort will rise. They will try to fill the gap themselves. They will volunteer information they were trying to extract from you. When challenged, do not defend immediately. Let the challenge hang in the air. Let them wonder whether you even took it seriously. Your non-reaction will unsettle them far more than any counter-argument ever could. In disagreements, speak less than you think is necessary. Half the words. Then cut that in half again. What remains will carry 10 times the weight. The bleeding stops when you close the wound. And the wound is your mouth. This is principle 1. And it is the foundation. But knowing why you talk too much is only the beginning. Because the real power of silence is not just about stopping something bad. It is about starting something devastating. Which brings us to principle 2. Principle 2, the power vacuum, force them to expose themselves. Nature abhors a vacuum. And so does every human being sitting across from you. Here is what almost nobody understands about silence in a social context. Silence is not neutral. Silence is pressure. Silence is a force field that pushes against the person on the other side of it. And if you can learn to hold that force field steady, while they crack, you will never lose a negotiation, a confrontation, or a power play again. Think about how interrogators work. Not the Hollywood version. The real version. Professional interrogators do not fill rooms with noise and aggression. The best ones sit down. They get comfortable. They ask one question. And then they wait. The suspect, the target, cannot bear it. The silence becomes a confession booth. The target starts talking. Starts explaining. Starts revealing. And every single word is intelligence the interrogator will use. You have this same capability. Right now. In every conversation you walk into. But instead of deploying it, you are sitting in the interrogator's chair and confessing yourself. Cognitive dissonance does fascinating things to the human mind. When people cannot categorize you, when you refuse to give them enough data to file you away safely, it creates a low-grade psychological distress. They need to resolve that distress. And they will work overtime to do it. They will talk more. They will probe more. They will reveal more. Let them. The fox does not announce its strategy. The fox watches. The fox waits. The fox lets the rooster feel safe in the yard, right up until it does not. Here is what Machiavelli said about this dynamic. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The wise man uses discomfort as a scalpel. The fool tries to eliminate it. You have been the fool. Not because you are foolish, but because nobody taught you this. Now let's get tactical. In your next high-stakes conversation, ask one strong opening question. Then stop talking. Completely. Maintain soft, neutral eye contact. Do not nod excessively. Do not fill the silence. Let them answer, let them finish, and then, wait 3 more seconds before you speak. 3 seconds of silence after someone finishes talking feels like an eternity to them. They will almost always add more. That addition is always more honest than the prepared answer was. When someone makes a claim about you, an accusation, a challenge, a manipulation attempt, do not react. Do not counter. Do not deny. Simply look at them. Let your silence ask the question, do you really want to continue this? Most people do not. Most provocations are tests. And silence passes the test every time. In group settings, speak last whenever possible. The person who speaks last frames the conclusion. The person who speaks last appears to have processed everything the others said. The person who speaks last commands the most attention, because by that point the room is hungry for resolution. Here is your new operating principle. You are not in conversation to be understood. You are in conversation to understand. Intelligence gathering before tactical deployment. That is how apex predators operate. Ask yourself this question. How many times this week did you speak when you should have listened? How many battles did you lose because you explained instead of observed? Good. Remember that answer. Because principle 3 is going to show you what a true predator looks like, and it does not look like what you think. Principle 3, the predator's pause, why lions never explain themselves. Have you ever watched a lion at rest? No performance. No posturing. No announcing its intentions to the herd. It simply exists in the landscape, and everything around it reorganizes accordingly. The wildebeest do not challenge the lion's right to be there. The other predators give it space. The entire ecosystem shifts based on its presence alone. Not its words. Not its explanations. Not its justifications. Its presence. That is what strategic silence builds. Not the absence of communication, but a quality of being so complete, so contained, so densely packed with controlled energy, that your silence speaks louder than most people's arguments. You have met someone like this. Once in your life, maybe. A person who walks into a room and the temperature changes. They do not demand attention. They do not perform. They simply arrive. And you found yourself slightly uncertain, slightly curious, slightly wary of them, because you could not read them. You could not categorize them. You could not determine how much they needed from you. That uncertainty you felt? That was respect being born. Now look at the opposite. Think of the most verbose person in your social circle. The one who always has an explanation. Always has a story. Always needs to tell you where they stand. Always needs you to understand their reasoning. What do you feel when you see them coming? Not wariness. Not respect. A mild, involuntary groan. Because you already know everything about them. They are solved. And solved people are boring. Boring people are safe. Safe people are not respected. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This is not cynicism. This is a field guide. He is telling you, control the appearance and you control the reality others construct around you. And you cannot control your appearance if you are constantly narrating it for people. Here is the psychological mechanism at work. Humans fill information gaps with projection. When they do not have enough data about you, they project idealized or fearful interpretations onto you. Some will project strength. Some will project danger. Almost all will project significance. This is information asymmetry weaponized through selective silence. You are not hiding. You are not being deceptive. You are simply refusing to do other people's cognitive work for them. You are letting their imagination build you into something larger than your words ever could. Here is what you do this week. Choose one relationship, professional or personal, where you currently over-explain. And cut your explanation volume by 60%. Just 60. Not complete silence. Not hostility. Just restraint. Watch the shift in how they treat you within 72 hours. It will unsettle you. Stop justifying decisions that did not require justification to begin with. When you choose not to attend something, you do not owe a 3-paragraph explanation. "I can't make it" is a complete sentence. Tactical brevity is not rudeness. It is status signaling. Practice the predator's rest. In group conversations, identify 2 moments per gathering where you would normally speak, and don't. Simply observe. Hold the energy. Let others interpret your presence. You will discover that the room subtly orients toward you more, not less. The lion does not explain its hunger. The lion does not apologize for its teeth. Neither should you. You are building something now. Can you feel it? A new relationship with stillness. With restraint. With the immense power that lives inside what you choose not to say. But here is where it gets surgical. Principle 4 is about turning information asymmetry into your most lethal strategic asset. Principle 4, information asymmetry, weaponize what you don't say. In every single social interaction, there is an intelligence war happening. Most people lose this war in the first 30 seconds, because they do not even know they are in it. Information asymmetry is the condition where one party knows more than the other. In military terms, it is the difference between fog of war and clear visibility. The side with better intelligence almost always wins. Not because they are stronger. Not because they are smarter. Because they can see while the enemy is blind. Every time you speak, you reduce the asymmetry in someone else's favor. Every time you listen, you increase it in yours. Now apply this to your daily life. Your coworker asks how your project is going. You tell them everything. The challenges. The timeline. The budget tensions. The personality conflicts with management. Why? Because it felt like connection. Because vulnerability felt like trust building. Because you confused psychological intimacy with strategic safety. They were not building connection. They were conducting reconnaissance. This is how hyenas operate. They do not attack directly. They circle. They probe. They chip away at the armor through seemingly casual conversation. They ask innocent questions. They share just enough of themselves to create the illusion of reciprocity, which triggers your covert contract which says they shared, so now I must share. You do not have to share. You can receive information without emitting it. You can maintain warmth, genuine warmth, while keeping your strategy sealed. Here is the Machiavellian principle in its coldest form. A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise. What does this mean for you? It means, your obligation to reveal is not what others tell you it is. Social pressure to disclose is a manufactured obligation. It is a tool others use to extract from you. Recognizing it does not make you cold. It makes you free. Here is the specific architecture of information asymmetry in practice. The strategic reveal. Do not share information evenly. Decide in advance what serves your position to reveal, and reveal only that. Everything else stays classified. You are not lying. You are curating. There is a profound difference. The calibrated question. Instead of answering, redirect with a question. What makes you ask? How do you see it? What would you do in that position? These are not evasions. They are intelligence-gathering tools wrapped in conversational courtesy. The comfortable non-answer. When pressed on something you will not disclose, smile slightly and say, "I'm still working through that." Full stop. Comfortable. No apology. No elaboration. It communicates, "I have thoughts. They are mine. You do not have access." This response reads as depth, not withholding. The long pause before answering anything important. Train yourself to pause 3 to 5 seconds before answering questions that matter. This does 3 things simultaneously. It signals you do not react reflexively, it gives you time to curate your response, and it communicates weight, the sense that your words are considered, not impulsive. When you control the information flow, you control the frame of every interaction. The person with the most information and the least exposure wins. Every time. In every arena. Now we move from understanding silence to deploying it in live combat. Principle 5 is where this becomes a weapon in your hand against manipulators specifically, in real time. Principle 5. Deploying silence against manipulation in real time. Someone is manipulating you right now. Maybe you know who. Maybe you do not yet. But if you have human relationships, professional, personal, or otherwise, someone is running a play on you. Gaslighting you. Guilt-tripping you. Provoking you to react so they can paint you as the unstable one. Testing your boundaries to see where you flinch. And you? You keep reacting. You keep defending. You keep giving them exactly what the manipulation requires to keep working. Your emotional response. Here is the brutal diagnosis. Manipulation only works on people who try to correct it verbally. Every time you argue against a manipulation attempt, you validate the frame the manipulator set. You are playing their game on their board by their rules. Silence is the only move that exits the game entirely. Let's talk about specific manipulation archetypes and the precise silence response to each. The guilt tripper. This person uses your empathy as a lever. I just expected more from you. I guess I'm not important to you. No, it's fine. I'll just handle it alone. Standard guilt architecture. The expected response? Defensive explanation. Frantic reassurance. Proving yourself. Your move, silence. Followed, if you choose to respond at all, by a single calm question, "What do you need?" This short-circuits the manipulation. It removes the emotional bait. It forces them to state an actual need rather than an implied accusation. Most cannot do it. The guilt trip collapses. The provocateur. This person makes cutting remarks. Undermines you publicly. Invites you to lose control so they look dominant and you look unstable. They are baiting your ego. And your ego desperately wants to bite. Your move, the predator's pause. Look at them. Let the remark land without landing on you. A slight, knowing almost smile. Then redirect the conversation as if the remark was too small to deserve your attention. Because it is. What you do not react to, you dominate. What you react to controls you. The interrogator. This person asks invasive, leading questions designed to extract intelligence or force you into vulnerable confessions. So what's your next move? How are things really going? I heard you had some problems with management. What happened? Your move, the calibrated redirect combined with comfortable non-disclosure. Still figuring it out, combined with a return question. Turn the interrogation around. You are not there to answer questions. You are there to ask them. The gaslight artist. This person rewrites your reality. That's not what happened. You're being too sensitive. You always do this. They are attempting to install cognitive dissonance, making you doubt your own perception so they maintain control of the narrative. Your move, minimal engagement combined with factual anchoring. Do not argue about reality. Do not try to convince them. State your position once, clearly, without elevation. I remember it differently. That is all. One sentence. Hold the line. Then silence. The gaslight only works if you keep trying to prove your reality to someone invested in denying it. When you stop trying, the weapon misfires. Machiavelli observed, "It is much safer to be feared than loved because love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails." In modern terms, do not rely on manipulators choosing to respect you. Make respect the rational self-interest choice. And nothing communicates that calculation more efficiently than controlled, unhurried, unrattled silence. You are learning to exit the game. You are learning to hold ground without spending ammunition. But there is a layer beneath all of this that most people never reach. And if you skip it, these tactics remain surface level. Principle 6 is about the internal work, the shadow you have been avoiding, because without it, the silence is just an act. Principle 6, shadow integration. Embrace the uncomfortable stillness. Here is the reason most people cannot hold silence even when they know they should. It is not strategic. It is not social. It is internal. The silence is unbearable because of what lives inside it. When you strip away the talking, the explaining, the performing, when you sit inside the quiet, you meet yourself. And for most people, that meeting is not comfortable. There is shame in that silence. There is fear. There is the voice that says, if I stop justifying myself, I might find there is nothing worth justifying. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the collection of every impulse, fear, and uncomfortable truth about yourself that you have buried beneath social performance. And here is the dangerous paradox. The more aggressively you avoid the shadow, the more it controls your behavior. The more it leaks, in your compulsive over-explanation, in your defensive reactions, in your inability to sit quietly in your own power. You cannot wield silence as a weapon until you can sit inside it without flinching. This is what separates men who use silence tactically from men who are merely being passive. The wolf that pauses before acting is making a calculation from a place of self-knowledge and stillness. The deer that freezes is paralyzed by fear. Same behavior. Completely different internal state. And people around you feel the difference even when they cannot name it. Here is what shadow integration looks like in practice. Not in therapy, not in journaling, but in the streets of your actual life. Acknowledge what you are actually afraid of. Not in conversation. In the quiet of your own mind before the conversation happens. What outcome terrifies you in this interaction? What perception of you are you trying to control? Name it. When you name it, you take its power. When you deny it, it operates as an undetected current beneath everything you say. Stop performing confidence. Contain it. Performed confidence is loud. Real confidence is quiet. Performed confidence needs your audience to confirm it. Real confidence does not require an audience at all. If your strategic silence feels like an act, it will read like one. Do the internal work to get to the place where the silence is simply an expression of your actual state. Sit in silence intentionally every day. Not meditation as an aesthetic. Not 10 minutes of app-guided breathing. Actual silence. Alone. With whatever surfaces. Let it surface. Let it be uncomfortable. Let it resolve or not resolve. The daily practice of sitting inside discomfort is how you rewire your nervous system's relationship with stillness. You cannot hold silence under fire if you cannot hold it in peace. Machiavelli's great insight was not tactical. It was psychological. He understood that most men are ruled by their emotions, their fears, their need for approval. And the man who masters these internal forces does not need superior force in the external world. He simply moves differently. From a different place. And everyone around him knows it, without being able to explain why. Your silence must come from fullness, not emptiness. From strength, not avoidance. From presence, not absence. You're almost there. One final principle remains. And this is the one that operates at a completely different altitude from everything else. Principle 7 is about something that most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever understanding what it actually is. Principle 7. Build a reputation so fearsome your silence ends conversations. There is a level of strategic silence beyond tactics, beyond the pause before answering, beyond information asymmetry, beyond even shadow integration. It is the level where your silence precedes you, where people who have never met you have heard about your silence, where your reputation for restraint and containment has done more work in the world than 1,000 speeches ever could, where you walk into a room and nobody moves to manipulate you, not because they are afraid of what you will say but because they have heard stories about what happens to people who tried. This is reputation as a force multiplier, and Machiavelli understood it with perfect clarity. He wrote, "A prince ought to inspire fear in such a way that if he does not win love, he avoids hatred." And the path to that precise calibration, feared but not hated, respected but not understood, runs directly through the consistent, sustained practice of strategic silence over time. Reputation is not built in a single conversation. It is not a performance you switch on when stakes are high. It is the residue of 1,000 small decisions. Every time you held back when provoked, every time you declined to explain, every time you received information without emitting it, every time you sat in silence while others scrambled to fill it. That residue accumulates, and it becomes your greatest asset. Here is how you architect it deliberately. Be consistent. Strategic silence that appears only in confrontations reads as evasion. Strategic silence that appears across all interactions reads as character. The person who speaks rarely but always meaningfully is the person whose words, when they do come, land with extraordinary weight. You are building a pattern. Let that pattern be unmistakable. Let your actions speak in the silence's place. The person who speaks little but delivers consistently does not need to explain themselves. Their track record is the argument. Your work is the speech. Your results are the press release. Align your actions so completely with your position that explanation becomes redundant. Do not break the silence for approval. The most dangerous moment for a person building this kind of reputation is when the room gets uncomfortable and expects them to resolve it. Do not be the resolution. Let the discomfort persist. Let the room realize that your comfort does not depend on theirs. This is the single behavior that most accelerates status in group dynamics. When you do speak, make every word count. The scarcity creates the value. If you have been silent for 45 minutes in a meeting and you choose to speak, the room stops. Every head turns. The density of attention you receive in that moment is a direct product of the silence that preceded it. Use it surgically. Identify the one decisive thing to say. Say it cleanly. Then return to silence. Do not dilute it with elaboration. Build the legend consciously. Your reputation travels through stories that others tell about you. Give them something true to tell. The meeting where you said nothing until the critical moment, and what you said changed everything. The negotiation where you waited them out until they broke. The confrontation where you were provoked and chose stillness and watched the provocateur humiliate themselves. These stories compound. They spread without your effort. And they do work in the world for you every single day. This is what Robert Greene called the court of power, where your legend is the first thing that enters the room. And silence is the most efficient way to build a legend, because most people are so verbose, so performative, so eager to be understood, that a person who operates from genuine contained stillness reads as almost supernatural to them. You do not need to be supernatural. You need to be consistent. 7 principles. 1 weapon. Silence. Now we close. Let's be clear about what you just learned. You did not learn how to be quiet. You learned how to be dangerous. There is a version of you that walks into rooms and people feel it. Not because you are loud. Not because you demand attention. But because you have done the internal work to contain your power instead of leaking it. You speak less. You observe more. You gather intelligence while others conduct therapy sessions in public. You hold ground under pressure. You exit manipulation games before they start. You let your silence build a reputation that works while you sleep. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a strategy. And you now have the blueprint. But here is the warning. And I am not going to soften it. If you watch this video and return to your default, if you go back to explaining yourself to people who do not deserve the explanation, justifying choices to people running covert agendas, filling silences because the discomfort is too much to sit with, then nothing changes. The world does not wait for you to be ready. The manipulators in your life will not pause their operations while you build strength. The social hierarchies around you will not hold a seat open. Every day you operate from a position of strategic weakness is another day you train the people around you to see you as manageable, as readable, as safe to dismiss. And once that training is deep enough, it is extraordinarily difficult to reverse. The window is now. The decision is now. Not because I am selling you urgency as a manipulation tactic, but because you already know what has been costing you. You felt it in the hook at the beginning of this video. You felt it when I described the person who talks too much, who over-explains, who hands ammunition to adversaries for free. You recognized yourself. And recognition without action is the most painful state a human being can occupy. Here is your mission. Starting today, not tomorrow, not after you sleep on it. Choose one relationship where you are currently operating from strategic weakness. Apply 3 principles from this video. Give it 72 hours. Then come back and report what changed. That is your assignment. Not a thought experiment. Not a thing you file away for later. A real intervention in a real relationship with a real deadline. The fox does not watch from the hillside forever. At some point it moves. If this video gave you something that cut through the noise, something that named a truth you had been circling, then hit subscribe. Right now. Because this channel is not about self-help as performance. It is about strategy as survival. And every video we make is designed to give you tools that actually work in the actual world. And if you are ready to claim this fully, if you are ready to stop bleeding information, stop chasing approval, stop being the most readable person in every room you enter, then write this below in the comments. I am the silence. 3 words. Your declaration. Your commitment to operating differently starting from this moment. Write it. Read the other comments. Find the people who are building this same thing. Because the most dangerous people in the world are not the loudest. They are the ones who learn to become the quiet. You have the weapon now. Learn to hold it.